was successful. Before bringing back any mitigated efforts for the other ponds, we're going to be doing a little bit more testing just to ensure that this mode is going to be best for the other two ponds. One of the ponds, as mentioned at the previous meeting, has never had anything done to it, so it may need additional or different mitigation than the pond on the north, which is basically was the same condition as the middle pond. The contract in total was $133,323, and that was the total cost of that project for the contract by Work Sand and Gravel. There's multiple pictures in the board packet of the before, during, and if you have any questions, be happy to answer. Otherwise, there's no action requested. This is an update. This will be the final portion of this particular action.
Comments or questions? Gentlemen?
No.
Comments or questions? Gentlemen? No. Okay. It does look like they did good work. Seems, work with them on other projects. Seems they always fulfill their end of the bargain. And this repair is intended to last life of the pond.
I think it'll, based on what we're seeing right now, if it continues to act this way, then it should last. Well, it should last through the life of the new treatment pond once we have the additional ponds to share the lives. Or the life of the new treatment plant, not the treatment pond.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? No? Okay. Thank you for the report. Moving on to item number 6, review and approve changes to the board handbook, chapter 13, addressing the board by resolution 2025-19.
So this item was requested at a previous meeting to incorporate reading of public comment into, or at the board meetings. April meeting, the board asked for revisions to the board handbook, chapter 13, addressing the board, section D, comments in writing encouraged. The current wording states written comments will not be read aloud at the board meeting. The proposed wording is as follows: written public comments received by the general manager or their designee prior to the board meeting will be read aloud at the board meeting during public comment for the agenda items specified. Reading of public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per comment. So that's a minor change, but it does incorporate what the board asked for, and there was discussion of the time frame on how long we were going to do it, but essentially the board can change this at any time, so there's really no need for a time frame.
You mean we can change it case by case?
You can't change it case by case,
okay.
But so if the board adopts this, then we'll read any public comment that's received until the board takes action to not. Yep. Yeah.
How are you going to authenticate the comments?
So we can't.
We don't want to turn it to Facebook.
So that's the challenge, because you can't moderate. Somebody that comes here in person and wants to speak, you have to let them speak. If somebody provides a written comment, you have to. They can provide it. They don't have to provide where it came from or who they are. They can provide it. Generally, there's an email associated with it. Generally, they put their name on it.
You still have to state their name, otherwise it's not valid at all.
A person can come here. We ask people to come here and state their name and sign in, but they don't have to. We can't force them.
I see.
So you can't force somebody to do that in a written comment either.
It really helps to spell.
I mean, we could make it a policy that they have to put their name on it if they want it read.
Well, generally it comes from an email, so you have some sort of an email.
Like this, they don't have to.
And Christina might have more of the legalese on what we can and can't require.
Just so you guys are signing sheet here, it does say not required. Just, would be really nice.
You are required to take the public comment that comes in person. You're not required to read written public comments aloud, and so that's not required. You could require, if they want the public comment to be read aloud, that they provide their name.
You could do that.
Just their name?
Yes. Yes, because they have the option to show the
Name and
person
address.
if they really want to and they don't want to provide any information about themselves.
We'd want to know if they're a community member or not. So I think a name and address, if they want a written comment read, I think that's justifiable.
As long as it's legal, that's fine.
We just need to make sure that the language of the policy makes clear that if they show up in person, they are not required to provide that
Yeah,
information.
no, I understand that. That's fine.
Are we also going to stipulate that offensive language, things like that will not be read aloud?
Yeah, I think you could.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't allow people to come to the
What's offensive to some people is an offensive.
guys typically catch it if there's offensive language or something that would incite violence, anything outside of the First Amendment.
Okay.
So if you want to add language to that effect, then we should bring it back about it, so that you can see the full language.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to ensure that it's not offensive or inflammatory, things like that. I would say I would want to tie it to an agenda item if it's for comments or items not on the agenda, that it's designated for that. We would ask for a name and address. I think those are all reasonable. What do you guys think about that?
I agree.
Like you're saying, they don't have to put their name, they don't have to put their address on our form. So, on the form here. So, what would, I mean, I just think it's a little silly, but that's my opinion.
Well, and for the most part, they have the option to come here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unless they're, physically unable or whatever.
Comment?
What part was you finding? So,
Well, if they don't have to do it here,
oh, I see.
then why would they have to?
Well, I don't know. In my opinion, I think that people say things in writing that they wouldn't say in the grocery line.
Yeah.
That's entirely the case.
Generally, people when they do approach, they do state their name, at the very least. So that's what we're asking for in the written comment is state your name and please provide your address. It's not required, but it'd be nice to know whether they're not community members, as Director Green alluded to. And just I would indicate that, inflammatory and offensive or foul language won't be read aloud, obviously. Has anything else? Anything else? No? Okay, so,
Public comment.
yes. Is there public comment on this item? There's not. Okay, I will motion that we table and bring it back with the additional stipulations. Second.
There's a motion on the floor to table item 10.6 to bring back, second by Director Davis. Director Green?
Yes.
Director Davis?
Yes.
Director Smiley?
Yes.
Director Beatty?
Yes.
Director Sangster?
Yes.
Passes 5-0, no absence.
Okay, move on to item number 7, discussion on fluid resource management, costs and prior board authorization.
So this item was requested by Director Sangster and Director Green. Attached in the report is a breakdown by month for hours used between wastewater and water and compliance and operations. And following that is the resolution that was approved for contracting with FRM and their proposal of if you guys have any questions, happy to discuss them.
I got one question. I think the request was not only the hours, but how much was spent monthly. Because like I said, I've signed 2 or 3 checks to this company. And one was 12, one was almost 11,000, and so on.
Right.
And you have the hours, but we requested the money part of it too.
So if that was the request, then that's not what I wrote down, but,
That's okay. We can bring it back.
Yeah, we'll bring it back.
Yeah, to clarify the request, I mean, I guess what we'd like to know is what's been spent month over month since we engaged with fluid resource management. And if you have specific jobs or tasks that they're performing on a monthly basis, I'm seeing in this month's financials that we paid them $15,000. So if we're paying them $10,000 to $15,000 a month, that's a very significant amount of money over a 12-month period.
Especially when you're paying full-time employees.
Right, and
Of course, I guess this is because you're not paying an employee.
part of the work that they're doing is offsetting the fact that we don't have full-time employees.
okay. So that's where I guess the comparison I would want, is to understand exactly what tasks they're doing that would otherwise be done by a staff member, which we don't have. Secondarily to that, does the resolution stipulate a maximum allowable amount of billables for a month or even a year? Because I guess if you're getting approval for this and the expectation is that, it's not a significant amount of money every month, that's one thing, but if the board's approving it and it's open-ended and it's $15,000 a month, I think that's an entirely different consideration from a financial perspective for the board. So I guess in the proposal, did Fluid Resource Management provide anything other than an hourly cost? Was there a cost or an estimate given for an annual expense with this company?
So we did what we had brought to the board, and I didn't include it in this packet. So I'm sure that you wanted it, but as I recall, when this first came to the board, there was an estimate of how much it would cost annually. There wasn't a specific, as you can see in the resolution, there's not a specific dollar amount. It's basically an as-needed time and material sort of basis. We can definitely provide, especially since we've been working with them for the better part of the year, we can provide a better guide of how much it costs every month, and what the anticipated annual cost is. The only hazard to that is in some months it's more than other months, so we would be looking at probably an annual cost.
Sure.
But depending on what happens, if we need them to do more tasks than what's outlined, then we end up running out of money sooner than later, which ultimately is not really a huge problem. It would just be a budget adjustment or another consideration of the board.
What is the budget number for fiscal year 25-26 for Fluid Resource Management?
I can pull that up for you. Here, it's supposed to.
That's not your updated.
I guess I put it right here.
Got it.
So it's broken down between water and wastewater. The water, or the wastewater side, it's in two categories. One is operations and one is required compliance. Let me get this roll down there. Under operations. For water, for 25-26 is 65,000. For regulatory compliance for water is 20,000. For wastewater, regulatory compliance is 50,000. And contract operations is 65,000.
That's $185,000.
It's $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And when this was initially approved, what was the ask and what was the expected expenditure? We're spending $200,000 a year, and that's not insignificant money.
I think that the initial estimate was around 150 to 180,000 a year. I would have to go back to the reports last year and see what was provided to the board.
When this was brought to the board, you brought all that up.
Yeah.
And then we discussed it, and then we talked about maybe more, maybe less, depending on time and material, what was going on. That's why we approved it that way to begin with, based on history also, the experience. So it was not made without some due consideration.
So if the board wants to reconsider it, I'd be more than happy to put together a report of the estimated time, what we've done for the last year, what we estimate for this coming year, and for the board to consider.
Okay, that would be great, and understand exactly what they're doing that is fulfilling a role of unoccupied staff positions. I'd be interested to know.
You said unoccupied or occupied?
Unoccupied. I mean, if they're filling in for positions that we don't have staff members for, I understand the expenditure.
Yeah, I get you. Okay. Do you need more clarification? Okay.
Okay, else have any other comments or questions? Comments or questions? Any public comment? Okay. We'll move on. Discuss installing GPS devices on all district mobile equipment.
So this item was requested by Director Green and Director Davis, without a whole lot of information. Got some basic costs for tracking devices, some ranging from less than $50 to some well over $200, with subscription ranging from $49 a year to several $100s a year. I'm not exactly sure, basically the last meeting, or the meeting that this was brought up rather, in May, the request was to bring it to the board to discuss it for mobile equipment. I'm not sure how small down we're going, because essentially everything's mobile if you try hard enough. So, we have a lot of handheld equipment, we have a lot of trailers, we have a lot of vehicles and tractors, things like that. So, without knowing the exact purpose of what we're trying to prevent and what we're trying to protect, it's hard to get an accurate number on what it would cost. But there is a very wide range of costs, from as possible to stuff that you can track in real time.
I think we should have something we can track in real time. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think we should have something we can track in real time. I think we should try to figure out a way, if we can afford it, to tag everything on wheels. Anything that can be taken. Anything that could go off the road and crash and nobody knowing. Anything that could, everything.
Well, I mean, everything involves a lot of things.
Well, I know, we had a welder that got wheels.
Yeah, so we also have a dolly that has wheels. So, I mean, it's,
Well,
I mean, the description
okay,
is
so
kind of vague.
let's say everything with a value of over $5,000. Would that work?
And if you want to go on that aspect, then I would say probably a value of $1,000 because some of our trailers are not expensive,
Okay.
but they could be stolen.
Yes, they can.
You know,
I think
obviously,
all
we have-
of our vehicles, all of our, everything. It's not, it's a pretty common thing nowadays.
Yeah, but without having more information on what the board wants, it's hard to.
Well, I just voiced my, there's other board members who may want to speak on.
Well, I worked for a company that had some 11,000 vehicles. We had them on all the vehicles. We ended up having to take them all off because management was going crazy trying to track everything. And that becomes a big burden to management and time wasted looking at these reports when people are trying to do their jobs and then bringing them in and picking at them. Why were you here 10 minutes more than what you're supposed to be? Why were you at lunch at this time when the guy worked through lunch so he could get something done for the company? It devolves into this discussion that should not be had. The guys get back within their 8 hours or 7 hours, whatever's scheduled for whatever they're supposed to do. And we track gasoline and mileage on the trucks. That should be enough to tell you what's going on. And also that's looked over by management of the district. That's good.
Comments or questions?
I definitely think that, especially on basically all vehicles, you know, that can be drove and expensive equipment like welders, like your jet thing down there. Sewer jet. You've got a lot of expensive equipment sitting down there, you know.
And we've had some walk away.
Yeah.
Has anything gone missing recently?
Well, not since we installed cameras has anything small gone missing. The welding trailer that we have, a very diligent individual made it as hard as possible on himself and stole it. I'm actually still surprised he got it to where it
You
got.
gotta tell the story, man. You gotta. Instead of cutting one wire out of the chain link fence and twisting it out to roll it open, he took a cutter and cut himself a great big doorway to drive through.
Well, to be fair,
And cut
he could've
every
just cut the
single
lock.
wire.
You could have just cut the
He
lock.
could have just cut the lock on the gate and come in.
What year was
There you
this?
go.
Well, yeah, but you know, a pair of clippers will cut it.
Oh, this is the kid that's
Yeah.
walked with the little go-kart or go-kart.
He stole it with
It was a, yeah, it was a
5-6 years ago?
So to follow up with my fire chief's report, item number 2 under equipment, all frontline fire apparatus has GPS tracking real time as part of our cradle point, not our cradle point, we're abandoning cradle point, as part of our tablet command program. So I don't feel that those devices, those pieces of equipment need additional tracking and additional mechanisms that could possibly interfere with the systems in place. The only vehicle that would possibly need something would be our utility vehicle, which rarely gets used. But everything else is tracked real time on board at ECC. They can see where we're at, where we're going, who's coming.
Don't need it. We already have them down there, we don't need them down there, but I would put one on the pickup.
A tracker on the utility, I think, would be appropriate, but
Yeah.
it's just to find out if it went missing.
They already have them on there.
And who gets to see that?
Well, the CAL FIRE,
Everybody works at ECC.
everybody works at ECC, the sheriff's department. So a lot of people that are gonna do something.
Not the district.
Okay.
So we can bring something back, if it's the desire of the board, we can bring something back that's, for a cost for anything, any mobile equipment over $1,000 that has, you know, semi or real-time tracking. Is that the direction of the board?
I say yes.
Yeah, the only other thing I think we ought to bring back too, and I've requested it before, and Director Smiley, you're always saying I'm asking the same question. It's because I don't get answers, so I ask them again. All vehicles should have numbers on them, and when they are fueled up or whatever, the mileage should be written down.
So that is occurring right now. Every vehicle has a number. Every vehicle, when you fill up, has its own fuel card. You have to use the card for that vehicle, and you have to put the mileage in. And every person who uses a fuel card has a number. So whatever card you use, we know who you are.
Okay, well, how, let's say if I wanted to go access that information, would you have it available?
It used to be in our report.
Yeah, but,
If you want to come see the fuel card
yeah, or could you
invoicing, then you can
just, could you just put it in the
Make
report?
it part of the report again.
Yeah.
And Mr. David, that has been explained to you many times before, that has been being done. That's why I said you don't need the tracking, you're tracking fuel and mileage. You don't need to do all that. It's this extra expense.
What report was that in the report?
Fire chief report maybe?
I don't remember the fuel logs being in a report before.
Seems like they're available. They were available.
Fire chief
When the
report.
fire chief used to do it.
Used to, you have like
Rob Hunter,
I think he's outside and ask him.
that he would include, but it seemed like when you have emergency vehicles, and they idle for hours at a time,
Yeah.
the fuel yields and the mileage never worked out.
Right.
And, you know, our vehicles will sit for 45 minutes idling with lights on.
Yeah, I think that's just where the report might have been before, but
I think that's where it was.
it only covered those.
So
GPS will tell you all that.
our fuel card invoicing has a separate page for every single vehicle every time it's filled up. If we were to put that in the board packet, you know, there are like 10 or 15 pages. So I would suggest that if anybody wants to come down and see it, that they are more than welcome to come down and see it. But
GPS will report all that stuff.
I don't think we did an extra 15 pages. I'm just saying.
I mean, all the documentation is there. If anybody wants to see it, then that's more than welcome to come see it. I prefer not to generate another report just to put that in there.
This is not my item, so.
I say move ahead.
Yeah.
I just need direction, so.
I say move ahead.
No,
Okay, so we have two, Director Sangster.
I'm fine with more information.
So, you know, all we're doing is getting more information. So, Director Beatty? No, and Director Smith? Okay, well, we have three, so it's a consensus that we'll
Bring back
bring
more
back more
information.
information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to board comment.
Oh, no.
I want to put on the future agenda to discuss and vote to not let people keep dumping in our treatment plant.
We already have that on the list.
Yeah, that's coming back.
Oh, that's going to be on the next month's agenda?
It's on a future agenda. Depending on how many of other things come on the agenda, it should be on the agenda next month.
We tabled it.
What? No.
No,
No, we just
It got pushed off of this agenda because there's too many things.
Oh, okay.
Our agendas are getting
I apologize. And then also, not just the trucks coming in and dumping stuff. I want to, because this was on, you had mentioned it once before that you want to try to bring in hazardous material and store it. And that needs to,
So the proposal was to work with IWMA, Integrated Waste Management Authority, to get a hazardous waste facility at the treatment plant, which is essentially a specialized shipping container that is designed for storing and maintaining and confining hazardous waste. And this isn't like glowing hazardous waste. It's batteries, paint,
liquids, yeah.
Other flammable liquids like acetone, whatever, stuff like that. Stuff you don't want on the side of the road. So it would provide a container that we would accept that material. It would be managed by Recycle, which is IWMA's contractor, or cleaner, I guess is their name. But they would manage it. The district, it would be essentially no cost to the district unless we chose to participate in some additional days of acceptance. They would manage it. They would be responsible for it. It'd be under their insurance. Again, it would be basically a C-train container that is specially designed for that. There's a lot of specialized rules that go along with it. It has its own fire protection system. It would basically be enable us to get some of this paint and other stuff that's on the side of the road, give it a place to go, give people a place to take it. If the board doesn't want to do it, then that's fine. But we would have to have direction. So if you want to talk about it, that's fine.
no, I think it should be put on a future agenda also.
Just a caveat to that, I get calls quite often for people trying to figure out what to do with old gas, mixed fuel for their trimmers, flammable liquids that, they inherited or been laying around the property, they don't know what to do with.
It's the only positive feedback I get.
So Director Davis wants to have the household hazardous waste facility on a future agenda. I assume there's a second. John? Okay, what else?
Is this something that's you're planning on engaging with anyway, or getting IWMA to provide this as a service anyway?
So IWMA has already agreed to do it. We're currently working forward on it based on previous board. So if this board does not want to pursue it any longer, then this is the time to do it. If we're going to continue on, then we need to keep moving on. Because they're going to be throwing money and we need to plan accordingly.
Sure. Including computers and TVs and such, electronics.
So we already take electronics.
And matches.
And mattresses.
Yep, okay.
Bring it on back.